Logos Nation, I wanted to come to you by video this morning to tell you more about what's going on with the Ready Schools Safe Learners Guidance. We have just gotten our most recent guidance that have come out, and it's got a lot of information. So instead of typing something up or putting in a newsletter, I thought I'd come to you by video and try to share with you what I know about the Ready Schools Safe Learners Guidance and Logos's response and how we want to work on our program for this year and what we have to offer. And I'm going to start by saying I firmly believe that this will change, and it will change again, and it will change again. And so where we have started with this back in the March and to where we are today is we want to have the most robust program possible within the limitations that we have in the middle of a pandemic. And so we our mantra stays the same: the grace, patience, and flexibility. That hasn't changed very much from our March guidance when we came back out with that, but we've added one more this year. We've added grace, patience, flexibility, and rigor, because we know that back in the spring, as everything kind of changed up, that the ES meetings changed and the campus classes changed, and sometimes they changed with less time and with less contact. And so we are this fall, we've heard from our families, and we've heard from our teachers, and we've heard from our community about what they're looking for in our program this year. And so because we don't know, this could go on all year long. We hope it doesn't, but it could. We need our students to get back into a schedule of a great, rigorous education that's going to provide them the options for their future. And so we are working on our plan for this year, and you will notice that it is a step up to provide a really robust education this year. And so back in June, I want to say around June 1st, the very first guidance of the Ready Schools Safe Learners Guidance came out about what they believed was going to be the case. And then they came out with more updated guidance and more updated guidance. And so you'll see, I actually haven't even printed off all the guidance, but we are on version 3.74 of the guidance. I have printed off the last couple guidances, and you'll see that we have a lot of things that we're trying to sift through to provide what we're trying to provide in the educational setting that is Logos. I understand completely why Oregon Department of Education has had to change the guidance and change it again, because their mantra is that we don't control the timeline that the pandemic does. And so I think everybody back in March, very few of us would have thought this was still going to be happening in August. And so they use the saying, when you can't change the direction of the wind, adjust your sails. And so as this summer has gone on, they have tried to adjust and adjust again and adjust again. To their credit, it shows their flexibility, but it also has been very difficult on schools. There's a story out today about school leaders feeling the whiplash of it feels like our guidance has changed and changed and changed so many times. It's been difficult for us to keep up with all the changes that have happened. So some things remain the same when it comes to this guidance, and I'm going to go over some of those things that we will be working on going into this fall right now. So the Ready Schools Safe Learners Guidance, one of the hallmarks, it has maybe, about 7 hallmarks of their guidance. The first hallmark is they want us all to practice physical distancing. And so I know at the beginning they were calling it social distancing. Now they're calling it physical distancing because they want it to be us to still be connected, but physically further apart. So they're calling for a requirement of the Ready Schools Safe Learners Guidance is that there's at least 6 feet of distancing between people for all the square footage. It doesn't mean that we're always going to maintain that 6 feet, but they don't want a crowded room or crowded hallways or those kind of things. So we have a limitation of how many people can be in a space at a given time. So at least 6 feet is what the goal is from other people. Now, that does bring up a point that I think is an important one to make. Whenever there is an outbreak or there is someone who's positive, exposure is considered to be someone who is within 6 feet from greater than 15 minutes. So that bar is higher around exposure. It's not just someone passing by within 6 feet. So we want to maintain 6 feet at all times, but it doesn't mean that it's going to happen all the time. But we definitely want to maintain further than 6 feet if it's going to be greater than 15 minutes. But one of the things that ODE also says is that if you can't maintain one area, they want you to shore up in another area. So if you can't maintain 6 feet, they want to make sure you're wearing masks, and they want to make sure that you're washing your hands and those things like that. So that leads us into the second part of the ODE guidance, which is the hand hygiene. They are saying that they want you to wash your hands for 20 seconds, several times a day. Either that or use alcohol-based hand sanitizer that is greater than 60% to 95% alcohol. So hand hygiene is another important aspect of our Ready Schools Safe Learners guidance. A third one is cohorting. So if you're having students come together, they want to know that as much as possible that those cohorts are stable. They've also asked for us all to wear protective equipment. So I'm in an office by myself, and so the guidance says I don't have to wear protective equipment. But if anybody were to walk into my office, I would either put on one of my handy dandy shields, which is an eyeglass shield. We also have these great forehead shields, which attach to your forehead. We also have masks, and someone could wear a shield, or they call it a face covering, a mask, if you will. And so a face covering, a shield, you could wear both, but you could wear one or the other. And so it's really important that our staff here at the school are wearing face shields and face coverings when they are around another person. So if I was to go have a meeting with someone, I would definitely be putting on my face shield or my mask. I keep it close by at my office because if someone walks into my office, I have to put that on. So protective equipment like face shields and face coverings and plastic barriers. So we have put up plastic barriers at the receptionist desk, in the registrar's office, and in the curriculum office. Also, part of the plan is isolation and quarantine. So I won't go too much into that, but that would be if someone is at school who is sick, about the isolation procedures and the quarantining of that student. They also talk about environmental cleaning and disinfectant, and so there's a section on the requirements of that, and airflow and ventilation. So we are so glad we have this new building now, because in this new building the air is supposed to be changed out 7 times an hour. And so ventilation is an important key factor of safety during the coronavirus. So besides that, they also say that outside is better than inside. So if we could meet outside, it's far safer than meeting inside of a building, obviously because of what ventilation reasons. And so those are some of the key hallmarks of the Ready Schools Safe Learners Guidance. It doesn't mean that that's all of it, because it's definitely a very big document. And I recommend that if you are interested, that you read through it, and that you see what it is that ODE is asking schools to do, or is requiring schools to do. So some of the ways that we have responded to this guidance is, I'll talk about each one of these areas. If we're talking about physical distancing, we have determined each classroom what the maximum size of students could be in that classroom. So typically a classroom that might take 20 students, most likely in the physical distancing is going to be somewhere between 8 to 10. And so we aren't at a place right now that we could sign up for campus classes on site. But if we were, those classes would be much smaller in size. Hand hygiene, we have purchased a great number of dispensers around our building. So we put up 20 more hand sanitizer dispensers, and we also had some already at each of our entrances and things like that. And so hand hygiene is important. And now they actually say that it's they would prefer people wash their hands, and if they can't wash their hands, to use hand sanitizer. So it's definitely important that if you have a choice between the two, that you might choose to go wash your hands for 20 seconds or more. The cohorting, we will have to work through that whenever we are able to have students here at our site. The cohorting most likely will require us to only allow students to take one class, especially since the sizes are so small that students can only take one class at a time at our school, and that will limit who they can be around at the school. Now, that's not guaranteed yet. We definitely aren't at the place of having students at our school very much right now, and so because of the metrics, and so I'll talk about those metrics in just a second. We have some ideas behind cohorting, but it will definitely be up to the family and the teacher to make sure that whenever when we do get to in-person, that a student is not around more than 24 to 36 of the same people in a weekly basis. That's what the cohorting recommends, is that we keep contact to 24 to 36. So if we have one campus class that has 10 students in it, and then you have an ES meeting, and then maybe something else, that we're definitely getting closer to that 24. And so we will want students to not be around more than 24 to 36 other students and people, including teachers, in any given week. Now, that is a requirement of this plan. Protective equipment, we have purchased, I mentioned the shields. We have purchased shields for all of our staff, 2 different kinds of shields. We have purchased masks for all of our staff, but we also have masks and shields for parents and students when they're here at our school. If students come to our school, right now the requirement is all students kindergarten and above need to wear masks at school. And so that we have, if you've got one and you can bring it, great. If you don't, we have some we can provide for you here at our school, and we've bought a lot of them. We bought child-sized face shields as well for students who can't wear masks. And if there is an ADA reason for a child not to wear a mask, I think there is guidance in the plan about how to handle that. So we can have that conversation if that happens. Contact tracing is another part of this plan that's really important, another part of the guidance that's really important. And so we have worked with our IT people to develop a kiosk at the front entrance. We'll also have someone there at the front entrance doing some screening. But contact tracing, we'll need everybody to sign in when they come to our school, and so we know what time they're here and what time they leave. So in case there is any issues at our school, that we can let people know who was here. We have that contact tracing kiosk that's coming. We're really thankful for Uppercase for working so quickly to provide that for us. Another key aspect of this plan is the isolation of the sick. And so there's guidance in here about how long to quarantine, how to screen for people as they come into the school. Teachers are allowed to self-attest to their health, but students and anybody coming into the school would have to go through a checklist to make sure that they haven't had a cough, they haven't had a fever. While we did at the beginning of all this purchase a lot of these little forehead thermometers, right now the guidance does not suggest that taking a temperature is needed, because they feel like people might rely more on that, and children are less likely to have a fever. They might have other symptoms. And so they aren't recommending, or I shouldn't say they're not recommending, they aren't requiring temperature be taken upon entry into the school. Doesn't mean that that's not something that we might do down the line. I don't know yet, but right now that's not in our plan. Then part of the plan as well is meeting outside when we can meet. We have purchased 20 picnic tables here for our school so that people can have meetings outside. If we get to a place where a teacher can come to your home, especially when the weather is nice, we're going to want them to meet outside if possible. So we ask that you try and have a very well, if not outside, a very well ventilated area. There will be guidance in our master agreement that if a meeting is taking place in the home, that here are things that we need cleaned, here are things that we need taken care of to keep our teachers and our staff safe as well. So in addition to all those things that we're working on, we've also put some additional things to keep people safe when they're here at our school. We had to eliminate some of our high-touch surfaces while at school. So things like our water fountain itself is supposed to be off limits right now, so we've closed those down. The bottle filler is still open, but the vending machine is unplugged right now because that's another thing that they recommend that students don't do a lot of touching of. Another thing that we've done at our school is, besides the water fountains and looked for high-touch surfaces, I think I mentioned that we have purchased a whole lot of hand sanitizer dispensers, and we have mounted those throughout our school so that people have quick access to hand sanitizer in just about any location they're at our school. I have also added little to doors that had the opening in, like bathrooms, a foot availability to open the door with your foot. And so hopefully that has that door handle, that bathroom being touched less. And there's some other doors. It has to be doors that don't have a handle. We have to open, so like the family bathroom, we couldn't put it on that, but on other doors that we could, tried to put it on some of the outdoor vestibule doors that people, if it's unlocked, people can just use their foot instead of their hand. There you go. Lastly, I shouldn't say lastly because I'll tell you some more things, but another thing we've done is we've hired a new cleaning company who guarantees a disinfecting every evening. And so we will be disinfecting all of our surfaces every evening. We will also have, if we have classes or if we have ES meetings here, requirement for disinfecting between those as well. I just said lastly, but I just thought of something else. We've also purchased a electrostatic backpack sprayer, and that is to electrify the disinfectant, and it's supposed to be cleaner and healthier. And so that was supposed to be in at the end of July. Now it's supposed to be in next week. So looking forward to that coming in and being able to spray things down like our playground whenever we can use it. We are required to disinfect that daily. So using our electrostatic backpack sprayer will be something that we will sure get a lot of good use out of. All right, so talking about the metrics. So the metrics that are out right now require, there's the easiest way for us to kind of convey it, because obviously it's complicated, is that if the state is over 5% of their state is infected, that's considered to be in the red. And then the county has two metrics as well. And the county has a county test positivity rate, and the county also has a cases per 100,000 rate. And so if all three of those are in the red, they tell us that we have to do comprehensive distance learning, that we aren't to have classes here, we aren't to have meetings. And right now the whole county is in the red. And for all three areas, the state's in the red, the county's in the red. If the state is in the red, but the county is in what we call the yellow, which that would be, so we are in the red if we have more than 66 cases in a week at our county. If we have more than 22 cases in a week, but we have less than 66, between 22 and 66, we're considered in the yellow. And in the yellow, we could offer K-3 meetings and classes. That's the guidance right now. They say that K-3 tends to be getting the virus less, tends to be shedding the virus less, they think. If we were in the yellow in our county, but the state was still in the red, we could offer K-3 instruction. Right now, the metrics, I'm recording this on Friday, the metrics today put us at 75 cases, and we still have one more day to go tomorrow. Last week we were at 93 cases, so obviously we are in the red for the county, and we are also in the red for the state. One of the important things about that is we all hope that the virus is going to just start going down, and then we can start opening up and everything is good going forward. They do talk about transitioning from the red to the yellow to the hopefully to the green, but it is possible that a county could get into the yellow and then move back into the red. And so it may not be this, okay, suddenly we can open and everything is great and we're going to just open. We have to keep watching that data to see if we have to go back towards comprehensive distance learning. We are tracking the numbers like every other school is. I actually created a spreadsheet that I share amongst the charter schools and the district here, kind of keeping track of all the numbers. And so the requirement is not just 1 week could you be in the yellow. They have to have 3 weeks in a row of being in the yellow before we could offer K3. And I believe if we went back into the red, we would have to go start that over again. So it has to be 3 weeks in a row before we can offer it. We're in this, you can plan for in-person instruction, you might be transitioning in or out of comprehensive distance learning, and that's pretty much how the metrics look this year. Interestingly, why superintendents and people have said that latest guidance was such a big change. We were all going this direction of, okay, this is the plan, this is what the metrics say, we're not going to be able to do anything. The latest metrics, or not the latest metrics, the latest plan allows for in-person instruction regardless of the metrics in certain situations. And those situations are a lot of things. Things like if we need to do assessment, if we need to provide academic support, if we need to promote engagement and attendance. There's all kinds of things that could make it where an in-person meeting might be allowable. So I'm not going to say that our teachers will be meeting with people today, but I am going to say that if there is a need for an in-person meeting, you're supposed to focus on students with disabilities and other things, but this issue, like if a student has connectivity issues, we're supposed to be able to meet in person. Peer-to-peer, what do they call it, interactions, that could be possibly in person. And so it really was almost this big hole blown through what we thought was going like all the lockdown, and provided some flexibility, almost a side door for when there's a need to meet in person. So I say that to say that if your teacher says, hey, let's meet to work on kindergarten readiness assessment, or let's meet for something that we need to meet for, that is allowable as long as it's one of these allowable reasons. But honestly, the list of reasons talks about mental health support. Really, if we're talking about academic support, that's almost any meeting that could happen. And so we're not saying that we're going to go out and meet and defy the metrics at all. But we are saying that if there is a need and the teacher feels like there is a need to meet in person, that is possible regardless of the metrics. But then there are, once again, things that limit that as well. So we can't have more than 10 people together at any given time. So in any cohort, whenever you're doing this limited in-person instruction, you can't have it be more than 2 hours. You also can't have more than 250 people come into the school building on any given week. And whether that applies to going into the home, we're still working on getting some guidance from ODE on that. But this is supposed to be done on a limited, if the need arises, situation. So it is possible that there might be some in-person meetings for picking out curriculum, or where you have to see the book, or maybe for an assessment that needs to happen. That is a possibility that there might be some in-person instruction, even if the metrics have us shut down. So when we do get to go to ES meetings in person, we do believe that in person is best. That's a hallmark of our program. We really do believe that students meeting with their teachers helps facilitate really a great education. But we also know that right now it's a scary time. It's a scary time for parents, it's a scary time for teachers. And so a parent this year, we usually say we're going to meet in person every other year, except for when we're in a pandemic. And so this year, a parent can, for the entire year, say, we're not meeting in person this year. And that is okay with us. You can be virtual for the entire year. Right now, for the first quarter, regardless of the metrics, even if the metrics go green across the board, for the first quarter, if a teacher wants to meet virtually, we're going to allow that teacher to do that. We have heard from some teachers who have some concerns about their mom that lives at their home or things like that. So we want to allow for the first quarter the teacher to make the choice that they're going to also meet virtually. Right now at homes, people aren't required to wear a mask. Now a teacher, if they were coming into your home, would be wearing a mask or a face shield or some sort of face covering. Students are not required to wear masks at home unless the teacher asks them to. So if the teacher feels more comfortable with a student, usually a 6th through 12th grade student wearing a mask, then we're going to ask that you honor that request. If we can't agree, then we'll probably just meet virtually during this time, just to keep everybody safe. For K through 5, it's less likely that a student might need to wear a mask. But if a teacher requests that, we're just going to ask you to give them a little grace to just wear a mask during that ES meeting. So one of the changes that we made from our middle year discussion was we were talking about doing 2 40-minute check-ins a week during virtual to help students who are feeling isolated to be less isolated, to have more than one meeting with a teacher in a week. And we've changed that up a bit to have it where instead of doing 2 40-minute meetings, we'll do the 1-hour academic meeting with a teacher when we're in this virtual world. And then the teacher's going to facilitate another 1-hour meeting, and that will be with other students. And that is optional. You don't have to have your child do that. But it might be something fun. It could be social. It could be academic. It could be lots of things. But it's an effort to help combat the isolation and concerns about students who are feeling really disconnected from their educational peers and from the community. And like I said, that is optional, but that is a way that we can honor that 1-hour academic, but then also help promote students to have connections with other students. So if an ES meeting is here for even in the limited in-person time, and it's in one of our ES meeting rooms, because of that 35 square feet requirement that we have, we can only have 2 people in that room. So a parent would not be able to go into the ES meeting at the school in the ES meeting room, which actually goes right into my next topic, which is actually, it is required under the plan right now that we limit and restrict anyone who is not essential for a school. And so we're going to ask that parents of all students drop your child off once we get to the metrics. Not today, but once we get to the metrics that we can do meetings here or maybe a campus class here, we're going to ask that you drop your child off and not come in as a parent unless you have a K through 3 student. If you have a kindergarten through 3rd grade student, you are welcome to come in and drop them off. We ask that you don't stay here in the lobby. We love when our parents are here. We love, normally our lobby is such a fun and positive place, but right now because we have to restrict non-essential people to our school, parents won't be able to stay here. But we also ask for those K3 parents to come back and pick up your students, and you can come in to come get them. But hopefully if they're older than that they can come meet you outside in the car after our class. All right, so moving on to campus classes. I mentioned already that some of the classes will have fewer students in them. We're working on getting a video system for each classroom, that we can record the teacher at the front of the room each week whenever we do finally get to have classes. And that way, if you sign your child up for a campus class and they are being quarantined, or you have some concerns, or you're self-isolating, that they don't miss that class, and we will have a recorded option for them. Whenever we do have campus classes, I am not going to have teachers doing a live platform and an in-person platform. It's just too difficult to manage. I am going to try and have that camera just go up front so that students are not in that video, but it is possible that they could be in the video if they're walking around or something. But once again, with the physical distancing and the 6 foot, really the teacher needs to stay in as much as possible in one spot. The students need to stay in one spot, and there needs to be limit the amount of walking around while in class. And there will be time between classes for the cleaning that has to happen in between classes. And we say all that to say that we want students and our staff obviously to be safe. But once we're in that classroom, we don't want it to be, oh, nope, you can't walk up here. That's not what we're looking for in an educational environment, especially when you're talking about like a kindergartner or things like that. So please know that we're going to work really hard to have students not really know as much, especially in your younger grades, some of these protocols that we have to put in place, because we want a joyful educational experience when they're at our school. So a couple other things that are important to know. Attendance in the new Ready Schools Safe Learners Guidance has gone away from the 2 check-in models. They have gone to a daily attendance model, which is much more like how we started our school, which is in the body of work completed. So we'll be working with you to communicate with you about what attendance will look like, but it will no longer need to be those 2 check-ins in a week. And I'm in my other thoughts, and they're pretty random, so forgive me, because I'll say one thing and then I'll change subjects completely, which is what I'm going to do right now. And what I am thankful for is all of our community partners. While at times we're not going to be able to provide some classes, I do believe the communities and the businesses out there are really going to step up. So if you can't use your allotment for a science class or for some sort of class here at our school, I hope you will look into our community partners and be able to use some of your allotment to get your children into some of those activities. And if you don't feel safe doing that, that's absolutely okay. I'm just saying that I think that is an option whenever schools are not able to do in-person things. Another thing we're going to do for the fall is some monthly challenges, field trip challenges. So because we can't do field trips, and we hope to do field trips as soon as possible, but because we can't do field trips yet, I want us to do a challenge that's an outdoor challenge every month. So it might be hiking Table Rock and then taking a picture of yourself at the top of Table Rock and submitting it to Emily, and then we'll do a compilation of all the people who hike Table Rock. Emily's working on some great locations. I love to go on this waterfall trip. You go see a bunch of waterfalls over by Diamond Lake. It's a great day of going out to waterfalls. And so we're going to communicate with our families some great outdoor things that they can do. And we're going to challenge you to get out there and do some of those things in a safe manner, obviously, and to send us some pictures. Sorry, my phone rang. So we can share them. So I'm really thankful for Emily and the work she does around field trips, and we want to get kids out and seeing each other and seeing things that people are doing outside around nature. Hey, I'm back. Fun when your phone rings in the middle of doing this. So I think I was talking about athletics. So for athletics, they have come out with some guidance around K-12 school sports that allows for training, conditioning, and competition for outdoor non-contact and minimal medium contact sports. And so I believe that we might be able to still do clay target shooting, and we might still be able to do archery. Our track and cross country, we belong to a membership schools that all do it with something called SOMSAC, and they have decided to pretty much follow the OSAA, which pushes everything towards the spring. And so cross country and track probably won't happen right now, but I think we might be able to do some things with clay target shooting and archery. We're still working on getting some guidance on that, and that may depend completely on the metrics as well. So just know that. All right, so where was I with all of my stuff? So clay target shooting, track. There's also guidance on things like theater arts that we will be working on. So let me see if I can find all that. Theater arts guidance. I don't know that we will be able to do anything with theater arts this year, but if we can, we would like to. Obviously, with anything, if we can, we would like to, but we need to be able to do it safely. So we're working on that. If that's something that we can do, we will. So hopefully you got the notice that our school year, the calendar we put out earlier in the spring has now changed, where we're getting together on September 8th as the first day of school. Most schools have done that to kind of give the virus more time and to give teachers more time to figure out what we've got going on. So the first day of school is not till September 8th. So another thing that's going to happen is we are required to, and we should, evaluate our plan monthly. And so on the 20th of every month, we're going to make a plan for the following month about what we're going to do about campus classes, what we're going to do about field trips, what we're going to do about ES meetings, what we're going to do about all the things that are part of our school. And we will be releasing monthly if anything has changed. So we are on the 15th of the month. We're not quite to the 20th. Right now the metrics aren't looking so good, and so we're most likely, we have filed the paperwork to do comprehensive distance learning for the first month with that limited in-person availability. So that's where we're at for September, and we will reevaluate September 20th about October. And I think that, let's see, I think that that's about it. The only last thing I have is that our school has had a lot of people interested in doing a model like ours this year. And so because of that, we have an extensive wait list. And because we have an extensive wait list, we have people that want to homeschool, but they just don't know how. So we have decided to come out with a possibly a monthly Facebook Live with myself, with Jason, with Brianne, the principals. We're going to have a parent. We might have a teacher to answer questions for people who can't get into our school but need help setting up a schedule, or need help figuring out how they even do something like this. And so because we can't take in more students than what we are allowed, we want to be able to be a resource for our community to help them through this time. And so we will be doing that Tips for Success. And so if you have a friend who you're like, oh, we have, I've heard this a lot, that we recommend our school. It probably isn't going to be that they can get in this year, so maybe you can steer them towards that Homeschooling Tips for Success, and we will work to help whoever we can in our community get great curriculum, great resources. It's good for the Oregon as a whole if students get a great education. So whether they're in our school or not, we want to help. With that, I think that's about all I have for you, except for if you have some questions, if you have some concerns, if you have some ideas, anything like that, please reach out to me. I'm happy to be a reference to people who are in our community, who aren't in our school, who are outside our community. I'm also happy to listen. Together we can come up with some great things to get through this time. I know that I don't have all the answers, so you might have an idea or some answers that I don't have. And so I look forward to hearing from people. And so I'm just really thankful for Logos Nation. I'm thankful for our teachers. I'm thankful for our students. I'm thankful for our families. I'm thankful for our staff. I'm thankful for this community. and for our board who works really hard as well. So just thank you for allowing me to serve you, and please let me know if there's anything I can do to support you through this time. And we are working to keep everybody safe, and we will hopefully have all our kids back in our hallway very soon. And I can't wait for that day. I'm sure we all can't wait for that day that we're back to normal, and I hope that will be very soon. So thank you guys, and let me know if I can do anything to help. Bye.